Morning. Happy Friday. Make sure you get pen and paper. We're going to plow and power through some stuff. So one of the things that I thought, I spoke about this I think in the Q&A or what are the Get It Done sessions, is the 3 keys to a breakthrough. And it's in reverse order. So I'm going to give you the third one, then the second one, and then the first one. So the 3 keys to a breakthrough. Number 3 is strategy. It's the how. Now, often we put that as number 1 because if you're anything like I was, I wanted to just get the strategy and then I'll go. Then I'll put 400% on it to the strategy. Just tell me how to do it and I'll go. But that's number 3. And often it's not the actual problem. Strategy is not necessarily your problem. And the strategy is also available everywhere. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Number 2 is story. Often what holds us back is the stories that we tell ourselves or the story that we create. And it's the story that can also keep you from finding the strategy. Again, because of our beliefs and our set of habits and our internal stories that we tell ourselves, it can block us from seeing the strategy and actually figuring it out. Yeah. And then number 1 is state, your state. We really talk about energy and state and getting your mental and emotional being aligned first. It all starts with that. I think you said if you're in the right state, you'll find the right story and you'll find your strategy. Yeah. So just something to think about. Strategy, story, state, but really it starts with your state is the first thing. Then you'll find your story because you're in that better state, right? You're in that good energy. Then you'll find your strategy. So I'll leave you with that. That's the first thing that I shared this week already with some of you guys. So the next part, the mandates of leadership. And this was something real, I found was really interesting. It was really cool. And I just could put it in the context of the PhD so nicely. Most people don't think of themselves as leaders, and especially for you guys, you may not think of yourself as a leader when you're doing this PhD, right? But the truth is your PhD is one of the most intensive leaderships trainings that you will ever do, right? And so I'm going to share these 3 mandates of leadership. This is the second part, right? 3 mandates of leadership. I'm going to put them in the context of the PhD experience as well, right? The first mandate is see the situation as it is, not worse than what it is. And I really love this. See the situation as it is, not worse than what it is. Now, if you think about the television and what we see on TV, the stuff that we see on TV is not there to scare you. Some of the stuff. It tends to scare us. It's there to pay the stakeholders. That's it. So leadership starts with seeing it as it is, like seeing it clearly, not optimistically, not pessimistically, just as it is, accurately, right? Now, if we put this in the context of the PhD, and this is often the hardest part, this is where when you get feedback, it becomes a self-judgment. We start to think, oh my God, there's something wrong with me if I get all this feedback. So we're seeing it worse than what it is. If you're having a slow week, and maybe you've had a slow week this week, you could think you can turn this into I'm behind forever, I'm never going to catch up. Or where there's some uncertainty in a PhD, and it's often what the PhD is all about, you start to question whether you should be here. So see how we can catastrophize the situation. We're not seeing it as it is. And that's what leadership is asking us to do. It asks something more simpler, which is what is actually true without the added story. Yeah. And maybe the truth for some of you guys is this chapter just needs refining. That's all it is, right? It doesn't tell you that you're terrible and you can't do this and you shouldn't be here, right? It's just telling you it needs a bit more work. The analysis isn't just finished. That's all it means. It just means you got to go do more. Guess what? Analysis is repetitive. You have to reanalyze your data at least 3 or 4 times. Otherwise, you're not doing research properly. And anything that's unclear, that it's workable, that's it. It's not telling you can't do it and you shouldn't be here and you're behind. So that's it. There's no extra meaning to anything that some of you guys get. So that's the first mandate. And I don't know who likes that. It's seeing the situation as it is and not worse. How often do we see it worse than what it is? And so I want you guys to think right now, where might you be seeing your PhD worse than what it actually is? And just think about it for a moment. But I really love it because we can often catastrophize everything, right? For me, but just see it for what it is and think about where you may be seeing this as worse. The second mandate is seeing the situation better than what it is. That's the second part. So mandate number 2 is see the situation better than what it is. So once you can see it clearly or truly or accurately, which is mandate 1, leadership invites you to see it further, right? And it's not denying stuff, it's using perspective. So this is the ability to maybe look at your messy drafts and say, oh, but there's something here. Or to look at maybe where you guys could be confused or unclear about something and just go, oh, but this is part of what I need to figure out. Or where it's challenging, you can say, hey, I'm growing. This is what I stepped in to do. This was meant to be hard. I'm learning, even though it doesn't feel all that good. I'm here to step through it, right? So it's seeing the situation better than what it is. And the thing with supervisors is that they are often in that position. They often see stuff better than what you already see it. It may not come across like that, but leadership is then learning to borrow that vision until it becomes your own. They are making your work better by giving you feedback because they can already see how to make this better. And for you, it's for you to step into that and to say, I can learn from that and become like that too, using my perspective. Maybe zooming, what I do in the meetings with all of you guys, I zoom out and then I think about possibilities, right? What can be more possible here if I allow myself to see it? So that mandate 2 is all about is basically seeing the situation better than what it is. And remember, sometimes we talk about everything's equally present, good and bad, right? But we tend to see it on the worst side rather than the better side. So that was mandate number 2, see the situation better than what it is. And it's not being in this airy-fairy world and think it's going to be all okay. It's actually just choosing to take this step that's going to take you forward, right? So mandate number 3 is then make it the way that you see it. So make it better. This is where we're not waiting for the perfect plan. We're not waiting to feel better. We're simply taking actions. So this is the action part. So make it better and make it the way that you see it. Yeah. And this is what happens sometimes in a PhD where everything starts to shift. At some point in the PhD, you stop waiting to be told exactly what to do. You stop hoping clarity will come and you'll get exactly the picture of what needs to happen. And you begin to lead. You begin to shape exactly the process, the steps, the actions, the conversations. You choose to jump into your writing ahead of someone else telling you to do. You make decisions. You start to lead the meetings and your supervisory meetings. You send a draft off without knowing that it's perfect, like without it being as good as you want it to be, right? These are leadership moves. These are the actions that you can take that matches seeing it in a better way that you can do. And so what you can ask yourself is, what is one small way that I can act from the way that I see my PhD rather than how I feel it, right? So think about an action that you can take to make that situation the way that you see it. And that's that better way, right? So that's the 3 mandates. One is see the situation as it is. God, just be honest and accurate about it. Don't make it worse. Don't make it a story about it. Yeah. The second thing is see it better than what it is, using your perception. Perception is one of those mental faculties that we do talk about as well, right? And this is thinking more about that vision and that sort of the path forward. And then step 3 is taking action, is make it the way that you see it, right? And I think this also aligns with some of the unconscious work that we did last week around you've got to plant the seed, or whatever you impress on your unconscious mind is what you end up becoming. How you see the world is how you're going to become. So see it for what it is, right? And then choose to see it better. Then act on the better. Yeah. Does everyone get this? The 3 mandates. Yeah. Is it clear enough? I know there's a lot on this, but just take some time today to reflect on these things because it really does fit the PhD beautifully anyway. That's the 3 mandates. See it clearly, see the possibility, act anyway. Why not? So good. Who sees it worse than what it is? Love the first one. But then there's a way that we can act on it, which is to, again, be controlled, be deliberate with what you choose to see. And then we have to take action, It was nice to hear that what makes us happy is progress, right? And one of the things that we sit in this space about is that all of you guys and all of us are incredibly intelligent, driven, motivated, happy to do the work, yet what makes us unhappy is the fact that you guys get so stuck. And when you're so driven and you're stuck, it's one of the toughest challenges that you win. And we see it, we feel it, we hear it. It's just the situation that you often find yourself in. And to start with that exact equation to say happiness is progress, I'm like, God, yeah, I know that. Like we see it. When you guys are progressing, it was really interesting to go, that's all we crave as humans is that growth, that momentum, that moving forward path. Yeah. Now, sometimes we need to realize that we are on the path and we are moving forward. Because we often, again, tell the stories that we're stuck and we're not doing it and I shouldn't be here. Why am I doing this? So the next part is the 7 elements of a story, because we're all in a story, right? And we've got different stories. You've got your PhD story, you've got your personal story, you've got your business story, you've got lots of stories, right? So what I thought is I'll share the 7 elements of a story and make it the PhD edition. But basically, this is the story of the Wizard of Oz. Who's watched it? Because it plays out exactly like the Wizard of Oz, right? So the 7 elements of a story, I'll go through them. Okay, number 1 is desire. Okay, this is the why you're here, why you started this, why the PhD, right? And it could be things like you were keen to make a difference and close a gap, answer a question that no one else has, contribute something absolutely meaningful. You want to become an academic or a scholar or a change maker. Maybe it's to prove yourself, right? There's a lot of students doing this just for themselves, right? So number 1 is desire, and desire is what keeps us pulling forward. Right? Now, for us, often desire dips off, and that's why we've got to get more fire under the desire, and then we can go again, right? So number 1 is desire. Number 2 is problem or a need, right? So number 2 is problem or need. This is what stands in the way, and it's not so much you solving a problem in your research. This is the problem that you're going to face in your story. The uncertainty, the complexity, the being stuck, not knowing whether you're on the right track. Sometimes there's a gap between what you know, what you're required to know or required to do. There's that gap. So you're going to face that problem. And that's where growth begins for all of you guys, is the fact that you're going to hit a problem. And we're always going to have problems. What we want to do is make them more quality, is actually increase the quality of the problems that we have. Yeah, because we're taking care of certain things. Yeah. That was number 2. Number 3 is opponent. And I really love this part as well, right? So you're going to face an opponent, you're going to face resistance. And there's internal opponents, external opponents, and intimate opponents, right? So let's think about internal opponents. What's the internal resistance that you may have? Things like self-doubt, perfectionism, fear of not being good enough, those stuff, right? So you're going to face these opponents. Now, that's internal ones. External ones could be time, right? Now, we don't really talk about time. Time is just a thing. Could be funding, could be supervisors, could be purely just the university, the organization. So that's your external opponent. Then there's the intimate opponent, which is family, expectations. Could be even things like isolation. Yeah, we know loneliness is one of the biggest factors that PhD students struggle with. It could be competing responsibilities. That's an intimate opponent. The third element in a story is realizing you're going to have these opponents, right? Number 4 is plan. This is how you then move forward. The plan evolves. And this is where, again, we've got to be open to understanding that we've got to have a plan in the story, but it's not fixed. It's going to evolve. It's going to include your research design, your weekly and daily practice for how you're going to go about it, your milestones, your timelines, your support system. You're going to plan how you go through it. Our chapter outline that we work on. A plan gives you that traction. So that's part of the story. Then step 5 is battle. So battle is the doing, right? So once you've got your plan, you've got the battle, right? And for the PhD, the battle is just writing as much as you can, even when it's not complete. You're going to plow through it. It could be revising that tough feedback. That's a battle. I totally get it. You guys are battling through feedback quite often. It's battling staying in this even when it feels like you're going nowhere. Yeah. Showing up after a down. This is where resilience is built quietly in the background, if you see it that way. So that's number 5. And then you hit number 6, which is self-revelation. Let me get my words out. Self-revelation, right? This is the moment where you may hit some insight. At some point, you realize that I know more than I think. and that you can actually work with the uncertainty, that you don't need permission to move forward and take actions and do the work. This is where there's that clear transition that you see in a student or just in any career, really, where you step into this the self-revelation that you can take the leadership. It's where the leadership comes in again, that you don't have to have permission, you don't have to wait, you can go without knowing, all those kind of things. It's the real transformation part of the PhD. It's not just a thesis. It's that personal growth and stuff that you go through. And then the seventh element is the equilibrium, right? This is basically where you've created the new normal. It's exciting. You're not returning to who you are and where you were. You're more confident. You're more capable of complex thinking. Maybe the thesis is submitted to finish the story off. And that. So the story is around desire, resistance, growth, transformation, and you're on this path, right? And it's understanding that if what gives us happiness is progress, it's good to know that in these 7 steps of the story, you might recognize that you're actually on this path, even though sometimes you feel like you're not moving. Yeah. And that can give you that perspective that, hey, maybe I am progressing. I'm just in the battle. Or the planning stage is because, yeah, I'm in this part of the phase of the PhD. It's definitely going through these phases. Yeah. And sometimes the story starts again. You might be in your equilibrium because, you've had a massive breakthrough, you've had a good turnaround in your outcomes, or something happened, and then guess what? The story starts again. Yeah. At a different level, with a different topic, with a different goal, with a different research project, maybe. Yeah. Everyone got those 7 elements of a story. And I think if you attach this to progress, to say, I'm actually progressing through the story, I'm not stuck, I'm not necessarily behind, I'm not, just because these things are happening doesn't mean I shouldn't be here and not do it. It's actually just part of the story, right? I feel that these stages reappear after any battle. Yeah. And that's part of success. You go back to next thing, or that's part of that comfort zone, or just that new normal. Once you hit your new level of normal, guess what? It starts again. You're going to get comfortable, you're going to hit fear, and you're going to have to get through fear. And then you get back to a new level of comfort. And then guess what? We don't like staying we don't like staying in comfort. We actually like the battle. We actually enjoy that. It's actually what gives us the biggest growth, and growth is our ultimate goal, right? And it's constantly reframing these things and having that perspective as to why all these things are happening and where you're at and where does it fit in the bigger story. Because if you understand and have that perspective of the 7 steps of the story, you go, oh, okay, I'm actually just part of the story. I'm actually just doing what I'm supposed to do. The questions we ask ourselves control your thinking and your focus and your feelings, right? So have a think about the questions you ask yourself, which is often why is this happening to me? If you ask yourself, why is this happening to me? The answer is going to be, you're an idiot. You shouldn't be here. You should go home. So it's a lousy question. Don't ask yourself these stupid questions, right? Your questions that you ask yourself is going to control your focus, your thinking, and your feelings. So don't ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself a better question. Ask about, get that sort of, I'm curious, why am I stuck with these analysis today? That's probably a slightly better quality question you can ask yourself. And it's going to go, maybe this is meant to be hard. Maybe I need to look at it from a different perspective and check my data. And make sure we sit really strong, right, and really powerful, and we use our bodies with such, basically the power pose, right? It's the Wonder Woman pose and the Superman pose and stuff like that. And they've done some research. If you just sit on the front bit of your chair really strong, like really up tall and right, then gosh, I think you reported that there's like a 20% increase in testosterone, right? Now, testosterone is what drives us to do the work, right? It's the action driver. Yeah. There's a reduction in the stress hormone, in cortisol, by like another 25%. And then there's an increase in, I think, what he calls like risk tolerance, right? So being resilient to certain stuff, that increases by something like 30%, simply by how you hold your body, which is part of the state stuff that he shared. When you talk to someone, when you want to have a big meeting, when you do your presentation, some people stand on one leg like this, right? When they deliver a talk. Just become really conscious around how you stand, how you sit, because it has massive effects on then how your testosterone, how your cortisol, and how your resilience to stuff. And it actually just makes you think better, right? Again, this is how we create that ease and flow in our work, simply by doing some really simple stuff that we have access to every day, every minute. All right, guys, I will leave it there. I hope that was helpful.
Thanks.